Welcome into episode 518 of the Skate Podcast. I'm Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin for our first episode of calendar year 2026. And it starts off on a surprisingly positive note. The Bruins had a 6-game losing streak snapped against the Edmonton Oilers of all teams. Interesting.
Yeah, and not just against the Oilers, but a 6-2 win. Like a pretty convincing, commanding win over a team that had been one of the hottest teams in the NHL in December, which is my opening shift, because we were talking about, how can this Bruins team even start to pull themselves out of this? You would have thought they needed to win at least one of those first two on the road, knowing that Edmonton right in the middle of the trip, at least on paper, is the toughest game. Well, that ends up being their response game. That ends up being the game that they snapped a losing streak. So for now, it's only one win, but I think it's going to be interesting to see if the Bruins can use this to springboard themselves into, another turnaround, because they've done this once already, right? They lost 6 in a row in October. Same situation. They ended that losing streak with a surprising win over the Colorado Avalanche. For 2 months, that was the only regulation loss Colorado had. And then the Bruins went on to win 8 of their next 9. So can this do something similar? We'll see, but it was a nice start. And there's, I think there's a lot to cover in general, but there's a lot to get into from this game. For starters, Jeremy Swayman was awesome. I think that's the story from that game. It's hard to say he quote unquote stole a game when the final score is 6-2, but certainly early on, I think he was the single biggest reason the Bruins were able to get a lead and build on it, because he faced a lot of quality chances early on. Carter McDavid in alone a couple times. Leon Draisaitl was one-on-one against him from halfway into the offensive zone. So some big saves that allowed the Bruins to have a 2-1 lead at the end of one, and then they were able to build from there. So yeah, a surprising win, a surprising score line, and obviously one that the Bruins hope to build on as they go to Vancouver Saturday night and then Seattle to wrap up this trip.
Yeah, and we can look ahead to January too, because I don't know. I just realized it just looking at it this morning. We talked about the road trip. So we talked about, the next 2 games against Vancouver and Seattle. But beyond that, there's a lot of home games in January, which the Bruins' last homestand didn't go well. But theoretically, the travel situation for them is better in January. And we can get into that. And you mentioned Jeremy Swayman, who had a great game. And he had not just a good New Year's Eve, but he's had a good start to this 2026 calendar year. He got announced to the U.S. Olympic team. So we already knew McAvoy was on it. We said we were pretty sure Swayman was going to be on it, as he was at 4 Nations. But there was a little bit of a chance maybe they decided to go a different direction in net for whatever reason, but he makes the team. He said he was, really excited to get the call. He said him and his dad had always really talked about this, and it's a huge honor for him. And he said he's going to have a pretty big contingency heading out to Milan Cortina for the game. So congrats to him. It's a big accomplishment. And the U.S. roster came out. The Canadian roster came out, the Finnish roster came out, the Swedish roster just dropped as we were about to record. So we can go through those, and which Bruins made it and which Bruins didn't make it, because I think there was one notable leave off he was a bubble. I don't know if you want me to say it now or just wait to get to it later. Because there's a few Bruins.
I might as well just mention it now.
Okay. So Hampus Lindholm did not make Sweden. Elias Lindholm is on the roster. Hampus Lindholm was probably that first 1 or 2 guys that just fell short of making Sweden's roster. So you will not be seeing him in the Olympics playing for Sweden. And then Henri Jokiharju makes Finland, which he also played for them in the 4 Nations. But at the time he wasn't on the Bruins, so we didn't really talk about him that much then. And we're still waiting for the Czech roster to come out. And Latvia, we don't know if Lishmelis will be on Latvia. I mean, I feel like there's a good chance he will be. But
he will be.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of guys there, and he's good. And he played well in World Championships for Latvia recently. So, anyway, we can get into some of the other stuff that's not even Bruins, like some people who got left off that maybe shouldn't have, some people who made it that were a little bit more controversial, especially looking through Canada and US's rosters. So yeah, I'm excited about this topic. I've mentioned it every single time the Olympics come up. So I was frantically trying to find these answers when they were coming out.
Yeah, I mean, another snub you could throw in there that, I didn't think was a huge snub, but obviously some people do, is Morgan Geekie not making Team Canada.
Yeah. He was, I think, Elliot Friedman or one of the Canadian guys, one of the Canadian reporters tweeted out, like, some of it was leaked before it was officially like put out. And so there was some people tweeting about who didn't make it, and I saw Geekie was like that last, the last people that just didn't make it. So unfortunately for him, even though he tied for most goals in the last calendar year, doesn't make the team. But it's not, I wouldn't say that one's super shocking just because Canada is Canada. But there was a case to be made, and we talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to having these discussions as we get closer and closer to the Olympics. It's the first time in 12 years that NHL players will be at the Olympics. Again, if that rink is ready, guys, come on now. But I can't
even think about that. Like, I can't.
Listen, there's time to dissect the different dynamics of each roster, and we've talked about before we started recording how deep Sweden's blue line is. The US's blue line is very, very deep, very, very not top heavy, but elite talent. Canada, I think Canada, of those three nations, outside of, they may be third in terms of the blue line, but it's debatable and it's very close. But overall, Canada's forward core is just, it's stupid. And the goaltending for Canada is a little, we'll see. I just think that they have to be the favorite heading into the games, and but we'll see how it all plays out. It should be a really fascinating couple of months here, and we'll see how similar these rosters are to what they were announced in terms of health when it comes to February. We'll see if anybody gets hurt. Hopefully nobody does, but for those final cuts, the message is definitely going to be to stay ready, right, guys?
Yeah.
And I know, like, all these GMs picking these teams have already, they have their list of potential injury replacements, and I think in a lot of cases they've already told those guys, like, hey, you're still, like, on the long list, basically be on standby. If something happens, like, you're one of the next guys up.
Yeah, looking at when you look at goaltending, offense, and defense, I feel like the Americans I feel like they may have the most well-rounded team in terms of checking all those boxes. Like Sweden, I think, is great on the blue line and in goal, and they definitely have a good forward core, but I think it's a little bit beneath the US and what Canada can provide. I think Canada's forward group is just otherworldly. I think their goaltending and their blue line overall might be just a smidge less than Sweden and US, but we'll see what comes to the forefront. Like, is Canada's, don't get me wrong, Canada's defense is sick too. I mean, especially when you have Cale McCarr, but I just think, like, 1 through 6 compared to the US and the Swedes, I think Canada may just be maybe right below them, but their forward core is just like, it's the great equalizer.
Well, and the funny thing to me is, and I think they should have done this for Four Nations. I think they're maybe compensating for what happened at Four Nations, where the US had the more pain in the butt players with the Kachucks and JT Miller, and they bring Tom Wilson to the Olympics.
But leave out Sam Bennett, interestingly enough.
Yeah, which that is odd after the season Sam Bennett had. And but I think they regretted not bringing Tom Wilson to Four Nations, because when Montreal's
you can't say they regretted it, like, that they won.
They won, but like I think that in the moment, like before the end of the tournament, like in the midst of the tournament, what happened in that US Canada game, not the championship game, the one that started off with 3 fights, I'm sure was in their mind like, well, maybe we should have just brought them in case of something like this.
I don't think it's that. I honestly don't think it's that, because there's no fighting in the Olympics. You get suspended if you fight in the Olympics. So I think it's more. I mean, first off, like Tom Wilson's having a really good season, so I think it's more for like the forechecking and physicality part of it, and just believing like he earned his way on.
By the way, Scott, I obviously know fighting is not allowed in the Olympics, but he's a pain in the ass in like you said, forechecking, like in all different areas, instigating. Like he is a counterbalance to Kachucks. Like that to me is what he is for them.
Yeah.
And they're
I can definitely see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, again, we can't bring this topic up without me just kind of derailing and going further into it, because I just love talking international hockey. It's something we haven't been able to really talk about for a long time with NHL players prior to last February's Four Nations face-off. So but I know we're gonna get into the Bruin stuff, and so we can get back to Boston. And do you two know what last game against Edmonton marked for the Bruins?
Well, it was like the exact halfway point of the season. It was nice that, you know, game 41 comes on New Year's Eve. So turn of the calendar is literally the exact halfway point of the season.
Well said, Scott. It's symbolic and logistical. So with that said, I think that it's a good time for my opening shift, which is some team and individual numbers at the midway point of the season. So I'm going to do my best to just kind of quickly go through some of these, and the two of you and listeners can absorb, and we can get back to some thoughts we have, any surprises, good or bad, or just any general thoughts. Let's start with some team analytics first, and then I'm going to run down some individual analytics and their paces, I guess is my point. So for the team, this is as of yesterday, so if anything's changed slightly, forgive me, but the Bruins were 6th in the division in points with 44. 8th in points percentage at 537. Those points and point percentage marks are good for 11th in the conference in points, 14th in point percentage, 17th in the NHL in points, 22nd in point percentage. The team is 13th in goals for per game, 3.12. In the league, 11th in goals against per game, 3.24. 21st in goal differential, -4. 8th in power play percentage, 24.8. 16th on the PK, 80.3, 22nd in shots per game, 27.1, and 5th in shots against per game at 30. Those are some basic main metrics. Bridget and Scott.
Is that 5th worst?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So they're what the kids would call mid, right? pretty cut and dry in a lot of categories overall when you kind of put it all together.
Yeah, for sure. And like if you dive deeper into like the advanced stats, it's like those are even worse than mid. You know, like if you go into like expected goals and high danger chances, both for and against, they're near the bottom of the league. You know what? So yeah, and you know the points, like 44 points at the halfway point. Okay, you're on pace for 88. Generally, that's not enough to make the playoffs. And in the East, in the Western Conference this year, it might be actually. But in the East, I would not expect that to, you know, you're going to have to get at least to low 90s, maybe even mid 90s. So the pace that they've gone on, you know, for a long stretch, like they're on a better pace than that, right? But a 6-game losing streak with 5 of those losses in regulation, where you don't get a single point, really throws you off. So the big, like, just most overarching takeaway there is, if this is going to be a playoff team, they have to be better in the second half than they were in the first half. You know, so like simply put, it's like, all right, how likely do we think that is, that they're going to be better from here than they've been for the last 3 months?
Okay, so with that said, let me go through some individual point paces and games played paces through halfway of the season, and I'll just say I only included players in this exercise who appeared in at least half of Boston's games so far. Okay, so with that in mind, let me just pull it up here. And this is in descending order of most points expected down to the least. Okay, David Pastrnak, 38 goals, 56 assists, 94 points, 77 games played. Morgan Geekie, 50 goals, 32 assists, 82 points, 82 games played. On pace for a point per game, obviously. Elias Lindholm, 14 goals, 44 assists, 58 points, 72 games. Zaka, 20 goals, 32 assists, 52 points, 80 games. Charlie McAvoy, 2 goals, 46 assists, 48 points, 70 games. Victor Arvidsson, 17 goals, 24 assists, 41 points, 70 games. Casey Middlestad, 21 goals, 16 assists, 37 points, 72 games. Mason Lohrei, 4 goals, 28 assists, 32 points, 77 games. Tanner Jeannot, who's currently injured, 8 goals, 23 assists, 31 points in 70 games played if he were to return next game, which may not be likely. Fraser Minton, 12 goals, 18 assists, 30 points, 82 games. Alex Steeves, 22 goals, 8 assists, 30 points, 65 games. Hampus Lindholm, who Bridget mentioned earlier, and Scott, that did not make Team Sweden. 7 goals, 22 assists, 29 points, 74 games played. Michael Eastimont, 12 goals, 17 assists, 29 points, 79 games. My boy Kuzi, 11 goals, 17 assists, 28 points, 77 games played. Kastelik, 12 goals, 14 assists, 26 points, 82 games. Zadorov, 2 goals, 24 assists, 26 points, 82 games. Sean Corrali, 6 goals, 16 assists, 22 points, 82 games played. Andrew Bobby-Orr-Peak, 8 goals, 10 assists, 18 points, 82 games played. Henry Okiharu, who's injured, 0 goals, 16 assists, 16 points, and 66 games played if he were to dress next game and beyond, which is not likely. And then Jonathan Mario Luigi Aspero, 6 goals, 0 assists, 6 points, 62 games played. I know that was a lot of numbers I rattled off, but that's where things kind of stand. So, Bridget Scott listeners, anything stand out to you in particular? Good, bad, and different?
What did you say Arvidsson's total point number was?
Arvidsson is expected to score 41 points in 70 games.
So that's ahead of where he's been the last few seasons. Like he's done better than that in his career, but you have to go back a few seasons. So he had a 59-point season in 22-23, but after that he missed a lot of time with injury too, one of those seasons. But yeah, that's better probably than I would have thought for a point projection for him coming in after they traded for him in the offseason. And I don't know. And then Middlestat, what did you say Middlestat's was?
Yeah, and before I mention Middlestat, it's just worth mentioning too, like, just like a lot of these guys are projected less than 82, like there's going to be more injuries in the second half. Yeah. So these point projections are based off of games they've missed, points they've scored, and if they were to play in every remaining game. But Bridget, to answer your question, Middlestat, 37 points in 72 games played.
Which is like almost exactly what he had last year if you combine his time with Colorado and Boston. Like very similar to last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that Arvidsson number, like thinking ahead towards trade talks, like that has value if he's healthy. Obviously, that's been the biggest issue for him this season and for the last couple of years is he's dealt with a lot of injuries and missed quite a bit of time. But, you know, if he goes on a healthy stretch here in January and continues to produce at that pace, like, yeah, that's a play that'll have value, that maybe there's salary retained or whatever, but like you'll get a piece for him in a trade if that's what you're looking to do. So that stands out. I would say the sheer number of guys tracking for 20 plus points, it's basically like every forward on the roster is tracking for that. So you don't like, that's good depth, right? Like you don't have anyone who's like a complete zero offensively where you're like, man, they're going to be lucky to get to double digit points, which the last few years, like you've had a couple of those guys. So you don't really have any of that. Alex Steves tracking now again, if he were to play every game the rest of the way, tracking for a 20-goal season. One thing like we haven't really talked about, and again, like I'm approaching this from the mindset of potential trade chips you might have. Alex Steves and Jonathan Asper are two players who, if you do end up in a selling position, are players who might get you something. They are both pending unrestricted free agents, so you would have a decision to make one way or the other, right? Like either those guys have proven themselves enough to the point where you want to extend them and say these guys are part of our plan moving forward, or you say these are flyers on career AHLers that we took that now have value and we can cash in for draft picks or prospects, which is smart business. Like if you sign a guy for really absolutely nothing, just take a complete flyer and then in the first 4 months of the season, build them up into an actual NHL asset that you can get something for. That would be pretty good business. Now, again, I don't totally rule out the other direction of saying, you know what, we actually just like the way these guys play and we want to keep them around. Like that is also a possibility. But I do think you have to make, eventually, if this team doesn't go on a run and really get back in the playoff picture, or onto the right side of the playoff bubble, like you are going to have to make a decision on those guys at some point because they've become players that you wouldn't just want to let them walk after the season for nothing.
Yeah, it's kind of like Brazeau in a way. Like Brazeau, exactly. They get and they flip him and like he's having a good season. So should you have kept him? But at the same time, you got him and you flipped him for an asset that you needed at the time last year's trade deadline. So and that's how we end up with Kuzi. So but I wanted to point out too, Brian, those are all the points numbers. I wanted to point out who's played in every game so far this season. Because it's actually really not a lot of guys.
I know. I was hoping there would be more, so I could just double the metrics for the paces.
There's not a lot of guys. So Morgan Geekie has played all 41. Fraser Minton, Mark Kastelik, Nikita Zadorov, and Sean Corrali. And Andrew Peak. Those are the only guys that have played all 41 games. So everyone else has been banged up one time or another. Zach only missed one game, so he's like almost there. But that should tell you that this team's been pretty banged up most of the season. Some of these guys missed time because of being healthy scratched, but a lot of it was injury. Like you go down to the bottom of the roster and you see like VL's played 10 games. Despite being here the entire season, he's only found his way into 10. So, and then you can see the various call-ups that have occurred, and the fact that there's a few guys maybe that you thought would have been at least on this stat list because maybe Fabian Lysell gets in. No, he's not on this list. No, Matt Patra. They've gone through pretty much every defenseman in the organization, But yeah, I just wanted to point out the game totals as well, just because it kind of paints a picture.
Yeah, and to that point, so Jeffrey VL, obviously I excluded. He only played 10 games. Jordan Harris, limited games. Blumel, limited games. Callahan, Soderstrom. Frederick Renee is the one guy in the organization on the blue line, Bridget, that I think, at some point you would think maybe he would have gotten a chance, but yeah. So Scott, you raised a good point, and I think there's going to be more time as the weeks and months go on here to kind of talk about players that the Bruins should shop or be hesitant to shop. And obviously, if somebody wanted to give the Bruins something like a first rounder or whatever for a Jonathan Aspro or of course. But I'll be honest, a guy like that. He is not untouchable. Please do not mistake what I'm saying. But I really like what he brings to Boston going forward, too. I look at the Bruins defensive depth, and it's not that great. And he plays a unique style compared to anybody else in the organization right now. And there's nights where Andrew Peeke has you ripping your hair out. Hampus Lindholm has you ripping your hair out. Lohrei, certainly. But outside of the penalty at the end of regulation against Calgary, it's like Aspro's a guy that he's kind of like that 2025 version of like a Kevin Miller, Adam McQuaid. I'm not saying they play the exact same way, but just like that rock solid, competitive, physical, can take care of himself guy. You need one of those out of 6 on a blue line. And so I'm not sure Boston's got that guy drafted. I'm not sure he's in the system outside from him. So, a guy like that, I'd be probably a little bit less quick to try to shop unless it was for an optimal return. Like if it's like a second or third rounder, it's kind of I'd rather keep him. That's just my knee-jerk reaction. Maybe that's me loving the assets too close to home, but I haven't seen this kind of effective third pair guy in Boston in quite some time.
Yeah, I mean that pairing with him and Hampus Lindholm, now it's only been 2 games, but they've been good. Like I mentioned it when we talked after the Calgary game. I was like, it's kind of really unfortunate that Aspero took that penalty late and Hampus Lindholm has the winning goal go off his stick, because I thought those two had a really good game prior to that is going to get completely forgotten. Well, Wednesday in Edmonton, they have a really good game again, and it won't be forgotten because they both scored. They were matched up against McDavid and Draisaitl almost every 5-on-5 shift. Like they were facing the Oilers' top 6. Bruins outscored the Oilers 2-0 with them on the ice. The advanced metrics, scoring chances, all that were pretty good. And again, it's a very small sample, but it's like that's just looked better than we've seen the Lindholm Peak pair look in, I don't know, months, like all season. So just like objectively right now, it's like Jonathan Asper looks like a better player than Andrew Peeke right now. Like if nothing else, what his play does is it really confirms to me that like Andrew Peake's probably getting traded at some point. I don't know that the Bruins are re-signing him, and you'll get something. Like he's a right shot defenseman. Teams are always looking for those, even if it's just for a third pairing or a 7th defenseman. Teams are always looking for that. So to me, I kind of feel like, unfortunate for Andrew Peeke, who I like as a person, like, he's always good to talk to. I kind of feel like he's like probably the most obvious trade candidate on this roster, and Asper's emergence makes that even more so for me.
Yeah, I mean, and then it depends, like, what do you want to do with your third pair then at this point? Obviously they have options once people get healthier. But yeah, the pair, I think we've been saying how it was time to break up the Lindholm Peak pair for a while. Just it was tough to watch at times. And it just Aspero is a better fit, it seems like, and it's this kind of the same thing we were talking about with Lohrei McAvoy. I think Hampus Lindholm is a really good defenseman, and when Lohrei McAvoy was a pair, it was like Lohrai's mistakes seemed to be pulling McAvoy out of his full game too. And I just think sometimes when when the chemistry isn't good, it can bring both guys down, even if they are good players. So maybe we see Hampus Lindholm look more like he has at his good times with Boston, with just being fresh. I'm looking at it as like a fresh start. Like, let's not go back to this. We tried it. And as long as Aspero's healthy, use him. And even if he's not, just plug someone else in, please. I don't want to see that pair again with him and Peake. So yeah, that was a breath of fresh air. And I can't believe we buried the lead, Brian, and didn't mention till all the way in that Aspero scored. And he actually almost scored before that too. He had a few good scoring chances in that game. He ends up tapping a puck in the crease, and yeah, he looked solid. And I feel like Brian, for all of the positive things you said about Aspero, it's like it was all on display that game against Edmonton.
Yeah, and listen, no player has a perfect skill set, and there's always something that somebody can be better at. But for me, like I don't know everything. I don't pretend to, but it's very obvious when someone's competitiveness is on display. Like when I watch these guys play, like you can notice when somebody is just a competitor, and like they make it hard. They make the game hard for their opposition. And I love seeing that from anybody. And I hate not seeing that from players, especially when players have potential. Like, and I don't want to like go back in time, but you guys would remember, and listeners remember, I had this like love-hate thing with Jake DeBrusk. Like I was always just down on him at times because he had such great speed. He had such a great skill set. And when he wanted to be a difference maker, he was. But I don't like when players take games off. It's very noticeable to me. And I know it made me sound like a Scrooge a lot about DeBrusk, but it's like I loved his skill set, but I didn't love his compete a lot of the time. And Jonathan Aspero is somebody like, I'm not saying that his skill set is spectacular, but his compete is, he competes harder than just about every guy on the ice every time he's out there. And you have to love that in a player. And as like a simple defensive defenseman, like that's huge. So I saw that from the jump with him. I did notice him in training camp at Warrior. I remember thinking to myself, who is this guy that's like, because the Bruins competed very hard in training camp, and they knew that was needed to be the case heading into this year based on last year, but there's still the elements of like, it's still a practice setting. And I'm like, this guy is just making life miserable for these forwards right now. And I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, so I'm not going to say he's going to make the team, but like he was noticeable. So
him and Alex Steves have probably been the biggest surprises to me this season. Like I think we all knew Geeky could push past what he did last season, and we saw it. So like him getting to 50 goals is obviously massive, but I think we all started to see his ability to do that last year. And David Pastrnak himself straight up said, I think he can have a 50 goal season. So if Pastrnak sees it, it's like you take his word for it. But Jonathan Aspero was not on the team to start the season, didn't make the team out of camp, gets a call up with injuries, and Jordan Harris goes down early. Hampus Lindholm goes down early. And you know, just a myriad of other injuries that have allowed Aspero to have a chance. And not only did he take it, but it did like do okay. He stole it. You know, he stole ice time. He solidified himself in there, because to me, I don't think he's the guy I'm thinking of. If you're dressing 6 guys, he should be one of them. So anyway, he's a big surprise just because he was not on the radar really prior to this season. And Mark Dever, who covers the Providence Bruins, said he was surprised by it, and it's a good surprise. It's the good kind of surprise with him and with Alex Steves, because Alex Steves wasn't a guy that we were sure was gonna play it all in Boston. It was like him and Blumel, they took flyers on, and it kind of came down to the very end of training camp which one of those guys was going to have the inside track to start in the NHL. And then you see, I think Blumel played 3 games during injuries, and then he gets hurt, though he's back and healthy playing for Providence, if I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that. I think if you had asked me during training camp if that would have been the case, I wouldn't have picked that to happen. So with Steves and the kind of numbers he's put up, and him holding on to a job too.
Couple 7th player candidates midway through the season.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Right.
Ooh, who would be the leader in the clubhouse right now?
It might be Steves based on production. But
you know who I think fans would go for though? I think it would be Fraser Minton.
Yeah, I was thinking Minton. Yeah.
That's just a popularity award then. like he's had a great.
I don't know. I mean, he's having a good season.
Yeah, he is, but
Well, I'll put it this way. If
also like if you think about like what seventh player is, it's like it's supposed to be the guy who comes like after the starting lineup. So like take your first line, first pair, starting goalie out of it. Now, that hasn't always been true because like Brad Marchand won it when he was already clearly one of the team's best players. So they don't always stick to that. But like it doesn't have to be like, you know, the 10th player. Like it can literally be someone in your middle six.
So Minton and Steves are both on pace for 30 points to my exercise earlier. Minton's projected to do it in 82 games, Steves in 65. That said, I have a dark horse candidate as well.
Who is he?
No, listen. It's tough to win seventh player when everybody knows how good you are, right? No, Mark Kastelic is a guy that I think, you know, if he finishes the year nearing 30 points, because his point pace is 26. I just think he's a guy that fans have really respected in his time in Boston. But this year in particular, he's had an accelerated role in the third line at times. You know, he's taking the opening draws in overtime to gain possession. He was billed as a fourth line guy, and you know, borderline still is billed as that. But if he's a fourth line guy and he's close to 30 points, fights, PKs, I think that's a fan favorite too. That could possibly be a dark horse for an award like this.
And Brian, when I was reading through the players who have played every game so far, I was surprised to see Kastelic because he takes a beating every night. There's games he certainly should have taken a night off because of, you know, he got into a fight or, you know, like there's plenty of times like he has played through extreme pain, I'm sure. And too is I also know, like, from talking to him in different situations, like he knows what his role is and he just does it really well. Like the fighting, nobody really wants to do that. Like he does it, he's good at it, and he sets a good tone. And so yeah, he's a good energy guy and a good teammate.
Yeah, and like fully serious take on that. Like it's just great that he has been healthy all season because obviously he dealt with recurring concussion issues last year where, you know, he gets concussed, he comes back, he experiences symptoms again, misses more time. And then, you know, he said like even at the end of the year, it was like he was just getting over it then. Mm-hmm. So, and we know like that stuff's no joke. Like you don't mess around with that. So for him to be able to come back this season, stay healthy, and continue to play the way that he plays and has to play, has been like just awesome to see. So, yeah, I was gonna say, so on Steve's too, like on his emergence, Bridget, it's like, it's a similar thing as Asper. It's like, he's largely done it through just competing hard, right? Like now he's scoring the goals too. So you notice that, but how is he getting into those positions? It's forechecking, it's forcing turnovers, it's getting to the net. Like Asper is doing it mostly defensively. Steves is doing it mostly in the offensive zone. But like those are, you know, he's not. Well, you know what? I shouldn't say. He has scored a couple goals from distance. Like he does have a good shot. But for the most part, it's like he's not Geeky or Pasternak beating the goalie from distance. He's kind of scoring the hard way and like doing it a blue collar way, checking hard, forcing turnovers, and going to the net.
I just put the poll out on Twitter, and so we'll see.
Brian has taken over the account.
let's see if we get some early results before we stop recording because we still have about a half hour left here. So I'm sure we'll get some early results trickle in. I put out Kastelic, Steves, and Minton as the options, and then I put other as a fourth. I think that's fair to name those three, and then have anybody else fall under other. Morgan Geeky popped into my mind, but to your point, Scott, it's like he's a top line player. Like, can he win that award?
He won it last year, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. You know who else I was thinking of that, like, again, in my mind would not be in the spirit of the award, but could be like just fringe enough that Bruins fans might go for him, would be Nikita Zadorov.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, he's been top pair most of the season.
Yeah. So like to me, doesn't quite fit it, but I could see like a lot of fans voting for him though.
I feel like he'd be pissed off to get that award.
I actually think you're right. He'd be like, I'm only the 7th player.
Yeah, he's like, what? No, better than that. So yeah. And Brian, maybe we throw up this poll too, just because I'm curious what Bruins fans are. I mean, obviously we mostly get Bruins fans' reaction because that's our listenership. But if you put up, do you think Hampus Lindholm should have made Sweden? Maybe. I mean, I'd be curious to see what people's opinions are on that, because he's somebody that's polarizing, and some people really like him in the Boston fan base and think he's a he's got a lot of upside, and some people have commented on all of our stuff with not trusting him as much. So
yeah, I think since we're bringing it up, it's probably worth mentioning like who did make Sweden's team on defense. So their 8 defensemen are Rasmus Andersson, Philip Broberg, Jonas Brodin, Rasmus Dahlin, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Gustav Forsling, Victor Hedman, and Erik Karlsson. So we were talking before the podcast, like I think the 2, if you want to call them snubs, or just bubble guys, maybe surprising names not there. Hampus Lindholm would be one. Mattias Ekholm would be the other. Look, it's a loaded defense core, right? Like those 8 guys who made it are all really good. To me, it's like Ekman-Larsson maybe stands out as a name where you're like, I don't know if like a year ago he's there. He's had a good season. Like if you're just talking about this year, Oliver Ekman-Larsson has been better than Hampus Lindholm.
Oh yeah.
I don't really think you could argue otherwise. Hampus Lindholm, I do think, has a better track record and has been better over the course of his career. It seems like Sweden's management didn't put as much emphasis on that. I think they maybe leaned more towards like, what are you doing right now, right? Like Mattias Ekholm has a great career track record. His play has dropped off over the last season-ish in Edmonton. So that clearly cost him. I do feel like Sweden went more for who's playing the best right now, whereas other teams like the Americans, for example, maybe leaned more on career track record and left off some guys who are playing really well right now, most notably Jason Robertson and Adam Fox. So just kind of different, maybe a little different strategy from team to team in terms of what management prioritized, and unfortunately this last, call it, really 2 seasons 13 months for Hampus Lindholm have probably been the toughest stretch of his career, missing so much time with injury and then being a bit inconsistent this year.
Yeah, I think the injuries probably factor into not being able to get into a normal flow of a season. And remember last season, he started out really strong before the injury. So if nothing happens to him, if he doesn't block that shot and have his knee, need a lot of work done, then I wonder what the rest of the season looks like for him, and what the rest of the season looks like. I want to bring this up too, Brian. I can tell you want to say something.
No, I'm good.
It's also, wait, can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You guys went black on my screen for some reason. But
you briefly froze on my video, but your audio stayed okay. Uh-oh. Is Bridget having issues now?
Oh boy.
Oh no. We lost Bridget, at least temporarily. She had to go for a skate repair, little equipment malfunction.
Yeah, thank God nowadays they have those like snapping blades you can use.
I'm back.
Yeah, it's the snapping blades.
Yeah, quick equipment malfunction. Had to just go to the bench.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I don't know what was said. I don't know. Did you kick me off? But I was gonna say.
Listen, I've been wanting to do that forever. I just don't have the power. So
trust me, the feeling's mutual. But so what I was gonna say was, it's not the worst thing ever for the Bruins that he's not on this team. like with the injuries that he sustained in the last, like you said, Scott, like 13 months, I think a little bit longer than that. Him resting, not the worst thing. So like, yeah, it stinks because you want to see your guys be able to go compete, and it's always fun following the local guys, and the more the merrier, usually in the Olympics, but there is a chance for a risk of injury going, and he now just doesn't have to worry about that. And maybe a little bit of rest helps him. So there's a little bit of a silver lining, I think.
And one thing I will say is, certainly from now until the Olympics, I think you should get a pretty motivated Hampus Lindholm. One, because I'm sure he's probably pretty pissed about not being named. But two, I just mentioned it, like, he probably knows that the next man up is either him or Matthias Ekholm.
Yeah.
So, like, you got to figure for this next month, say, God forbid something happens a week before the Olympics, you want to make sure you're next up, right? Like, you don't want to be second to next up. You don't want to need 2 injuries. You want to play and show this management team that if any one of these guys goes down, you're the next call.
Well, it's interesting because do you remember, was Hampus Lindholm on Team Sweden for the World Cup of Hockey back in 2016?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I know he was
I will also say,
young.
I didn't even mention him, but another snub here, or another name to throw out, Simon Edvinsson from the Red Wings also did not make this Team Sweden, and he's
really?
I would think he's pretty high up there too.
I thought he made it. No. Wow. Okay. I mean, sheesh. Yeah.
So say it's probably one of those 3.
Oh, wow, it's that much tougher for Lindholm then. But what I was gonna say about Lindholm was, I think had he not gotten hurt last year, he's on the 4 Nations roster for Sweden. But it sucks for him because I would say over the last decade since he entered the league, Hampus Lindholm has probably been, a top 6, 7 Swedish defenseman in the league over that span. But he falls victim to NHL players not having participated in the Olympics. I don't think so the last time the NHL players were in the Olympics was 2014. Was he a rookie back then? Would he have been on Sweden back then? I'm trying to figure out if this is like the first Olympics he's had an actual chance to make, despite being in the league for a decade and being one of the better Swedish defensemen, consistently not named Victor Hedman or Erik Karlsson, stuff like that.
Looks like Scott's on the interweb search.
I feel like Hampus Lindholm debuted in like 13-14. I don't know why that year is, and if that's the case, that may have been an Olympic season, but he may have been so young that he may not have qualified he may not have made the team. But it's if that's the case, it does suck for Lindholm that he doesn't make this team, and because it just so happens that when you finally go back to the Olympics, he's kind of in like one of the lower stretches of hockey he's probably played.
Yeah.
Throughout his career.
Yeah.
So
it's tough because I think he did a lot of things right, like heading into what would have been like the decision-making process for 4 Nations. And so misses out.
He's on that. He's on that roster all day.
Yeah.
All day. If he's healthy for last February, he's on that roster all day.
Yeah. He was not on the 2014 Olympic team. He was on the 2016 World Cup of Hockey team. So
he's represented Sweden once internationally as a pro. I mean, maybe outside of some world championships, but anyway. All right. Well, that's our Sweden corner for a few minutes there. I feel like we probably, Scott, did you have a final thought on that before we transition?
No, do we want to do US?
Yes. Yeah. I also, there's probably some Bruin stuff too we should get to at some point. Towards the end, I feel like we haven't even touched on the Oilers game. We'll get to that, but yes, let's talk. Let's keep it international here while we're on it.
Yeah. So the US team got named Friday morning. I don't know if we want to go through the full roster, but notably to me, like the 2 biggest snub. So obviously from Bruins perspective, as we said, Jeremy Swayman made it. Charlie McAvoy was one of the first 6 named, so he was locked in. the two most notable snubs and guys that I would have had on the team were Jason Robertson from the Dallas Stars, and on the blue line, Adam Fox from the Rangers. And if you're looking for players to take off, I would take off Vincent Trocheck up front, who I get why he's there. I understand what his role is. Like, he's defensive-minded player. He plays with some physicality, very good on faceoffs, kills penalties, has some speed, like all of that. I understand what they see in him. I just think they have other guys who can do that. And to me, I feel like you're just overthinking it, not bringing your best players. Jason Robertson leads All-Americans in points this season. You literally just left your country's leading scorer this season at home. I just think that's overthinking it. Like I just think that's a player I want to have available, even if I don't think he's in my starting, top 12 to start. Like, if someone else struggles or, you need offense somewhere, again, because I'm also coming at this where I don't know that I'm like fully convinced that everyone in that U.S. top 9 is going to be great at the Olympics. Austin Matthews just had a hat trick. So he started to heat up, but he has not had the best season. Jack Hughes has dealt with injuries and also struggled in Four Nations last year. Kyle Connor struggled in Four Nations last year, wound up as a healthy scratch for the gold medal game. Like, if any of that happens, like if anyone takes a step back or does, Brady Tkachuk and Matthew Tkachuk both got banged up during Four Nations. Matthew Tkachuk really couldn't even play in the gold medal game. Like, if any of that happens, I'm like,
he hasn't played this year.
He's
just coming back.
Right. I'm like, I don't know that I'm fully confident that you just have enough guys you can move up and put into a top 9 role. Like, I think I'd really like to have the top point getter from my country available. And then I kind of think the same way on the back end, where it's like Noah Hannafin. It's clear that the debate for the 8th defenseman came down to Noah Hannafin versus Adam Fox. And, like, you can throw Jackson Lacombe or Lane Hudson in there, but I don't think they were as seriously considered. And I'm like, I guess it seems to me the only argument for Hannafin over Fox is he's a better skater. And I'm like, I guess that's it. Like, I guess that's just kind of ultimately what mattered to them most. Because I'm like, objectively, Adam Fox is just a better player. And I just feel like you're overthinking it again. Like, who's the better defenseman? It's Adam Fox.
Well,
and I know he struggled with Four Nations last year. I get that. It's a small sample size. He's been better this year for the Rangers. Like, he has a track record over 5 years now as one of the best defensemen in the world. Again, he doesn't have to be in your starting 6 right out of the gate. But I want that guy as an option. And I just feel like this management was so... It's clear that they were just so turned off by his play in Four Nations that it almost doesn't matter what he was going to do this year. Because, again, Adam Fox has been really good. Like, he's top 5. If we had to turn in Norris ballots right now, he's on the top 5. And, well, he missed some time with the injury, so maybe that would hold him out. But if you just went, like, per game, like, he'd be there. So I just think it's like Bill Guerin's mind was just already made up when Four Nations ended.
So Hannafin's a better skater than Fox. When you say, like, who's better, I don't know that, I'm genuinely asking, like, analytically, is Fox better than Hannafin defensively?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Fox tilts the ice, and, like, analytically, he tilts the ice in a way that very few defensemen do. Like, the Rangers, when he's on the ice, are like a borderline elite team, and when he's off the ice, they're one of the worst teams in the league.
And I'd seen, and I was trying to find it just now, but I can't find who exactly had it. But one of the Fox thing, I think, got leaked before the announcement was officially made, and I had seen that one of the bigger name reporters, I forget if it was Frank Saravalli or one of the Canadian guys, but said that was reporting that Sullivan was pushing for Fox.
I think this was Emily Kaplan.
okay, maybe it was okay. So was pushing for Fox to be on the team. Obviously, he's just coaching with the Rangers, and like was trying to maybe sway it to go that direction, but ultimately,
yeah, she reported that like all of the Rangers guys like in positions of power push for him. So that's Sullivan, head coach, David Quinn, assistant coach for Team USA, and Chris Drury, who's an assistant GM for the US. So, I mean, if that's true, then that's like 3 people whose voices matter who just got outvoted or just had Bill Guerin as the final say be like, I hear you. I simply don't care. He's not on my team.
Yeah. So I did too want to talk about just like the goalie situation with when you look through and we didn't mention this off the top, but Linus Ullmark wasn't on the Swedish roster either, and he's taken a leave currently with not a lot of details on why, but he's away from the Senators currently. But yeah, he doesn't make the Swedish roster. And their goalies are Philip Gustafsson, Jacob Markstrom, Jesper Wallstedt. But I still feel like the US has a leg up in net if Connor Hellebuck's healthy. It's him, Jake Ottinger, and Jeremy Swayman. I don't know what that rotation looks like, but I think those are 3 reliable goaltenders to be able to roll out there.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean I think it's Hellebuck's net as the starter. Probably Andre second, Swayman third, and I would guess Hellebuck and Andre probably at least the 2 of them play in the group stage. I had said on here it must have been one of our episodes during November that Swayman was clearly at that point playing the best of any of them, in part because Hellebuck was out injured at the time. But then Swayman had a much more inconsistent December. So, and I think he probably opened the door. If he had made any progress to bump, say, Ottinger out of the 2 seed, I think that's probably swung back. Ottinger's been good recently. So that's probably the pretty clear pecking order. It's, on paper, it looks like the U.S. has the best goaltending. But as we saw last year, it's like, get into one game, anything can happen. Jordan Binnington outplayed Connor Hellebuck in the gold medal game, period. And this has been, obviously, Connor Hellebuck's playoff performance has been an ongoing thing for a while now, for years. So he once again has a lot to prove. Like, he will enter this tournament, assuming he doesn't re-injure himself, as the clear number 1, as the go-to guy. And once again, we'll have a lot to prove about what he can do on the sport's biggest stage.
To the forwards real quick on Team USA, like Scott, I agree with you on Robertson versus Trocheck. Like I was saying before, Team USA has a lot of guys that can check and kill. You have the Kachucks, you have Eichel, you have Boldy, JT Miller, Brock Nell. Like there's a lot of guys, Dylan Larkin, I don't know if I said him. So I just think that I agree with you on Robertson. Like his size, his skating, his speed, his skill set is so unique that in a tournament where all it takes is one guy to make that extra play offensively, I just feel like I'd rather have Robertson in the lineup because Trocheck is far from the only player on this roster that can do what they brought him in to do. But yeah, you also mentioned some of the USA's top players having some question marks coming in. Austin Matthews, injury, lingering injuries. JT Miller is a guy that I love his game. He's on my roster, right? Like I would have him on my roster, but he, outside of his fight last year and to start the game in Montreal, I kind of found his game a little quiet at 4 Nations, and he's got 22 points, I think, in 35 games this year. So, like, am I fully confident he's going to be the best version of himself in a small tournament? I don't know. Matthew Tkachuk is coming off. He hasn't even played this year yet, so it's like he has to rev up. Kyle Connor is a guy that they scratched in the gold. What do we call it? Gold medal game last? Not gold medal. What was 4 Nations championship game last year?
Yeah, I mean they did get medals too, so
Did
I think technically you could call it that.
they scratched him in that game. So I don't know. I'm just a little bit surprised. Like I'm a little bit surprised that like Robertson couldn't squeak in. Like you want to leave out Cole Caulfield. You and I talked about it before, Bridget. I think you may have been on. I forget where you may have been before we started recording, but Caulfield is a guy who is one-dimensional, right? Like he's undersized. He could score, excellent score, but he's not a great defensive player. Trevor Zegras, a lot to be desired with this two-way game. Alex DeBrincat, same kind of thing as Caulfield. Like there are players that were omitted from this USA roster where you really do understand, like, okay, they might get exposed defensively, but is Jason Robertson a guy who would get exposed defensively? Does he not have good defensive intellects? Like what were they looking at with Robertson where they said, no, not going to cut it? I also love the addition of Tage Thompson from Four Nations. He was not on the Four Nations roster. He is on this roster. That's a big addition.
Yeah, and Clayton Keller, another addition who wasn't there for Four Nations, who, like Thompson, really earned himself on in the World Championships, which clearly mattered. So, I guess if you're a bubble guy who's trying to prove yourself, something to keep in mind for the next cycle 4 years from now is like, if you're trying to prove yourself to USA management, go play in World Championships and have yourself a tournament, because that is, I think Thompson and Keller do enough in the NHL to put themselves on the radar. But I think the way they played at World Championships really pushed it over the top. I think it was the Athletics breakdown right after the roster got announced Friday morning that mentioned like Thompson and Keller both proved to the U.S. management that they could check and defend, and cited like the fact that the gold medal game at Worlds was a 1-0 game where, you needed to be on your details, and management felt like those two were as the top forwards on the team. So that clearly mattered. I love seeing Keller get in. 5 BU guys on this team, 5 former Terriers, between Keller, Brady Tkachuk, Jack Eichel, Jay Gottinger, and obviously Charlie McAvoy. So that's always good. I think that pretty much guarantees you a gold medal.
Well, the women, by the way, the women have a lot of BU alumni too. So like I know we haven't talked about the women, but yeah, like there's a lot of local connections on the women's side. I mean, Erin Frankel and Gwen Phillips both played at Northeastern. They're the 2 of the 3 goalies for the women. And like there's just a bunch. Megan Keller, I don't know. There's a bunch of local like BC, Northeastern, BU players that are on both US, Canada, all over the place. But yeah.
Marie-Philippe Poulin gonna break the Americans' hearts once again in the Olympics.
I know.
But yeah, bringing it back to the US, like I thought that whole like 4th line group from Four Nations last year, I could just kind of take or leave, and that was Nelson, Trocheck, Miller, who was like 4th/3rd line depending on the game, and Chris Kreider. And Kreider was the only forward from Four Nations who isn't back. I just thought, like you could have left one at home. But I get Brock. It sounds like everything you've heard is like the coaching staff and management at USA Hockey loves Brock Nelson, and like he was a lock all the ways along. It's like, okay, that's fine. I like Brock Nelson as a player. I just don't think you need all 3 of Nelson, Miller, and Trocheck. I feel like they all kind of occupy similar roles. And I just would have preferred another scorer.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I think Nelson, he might be able to provide some institutional knowledge to a couple of key Canadian players as well, if that time comes. But yeah, I'm with you, Scott. Another name, less of an uproar about, but another young American forward that's having a great year is Cutter Gauthier over in Anaheim. 38 points in 40 games. So he's another guy that you could probably lump into some of those omissions. There's some others. I mean, listen, Logan Cooley's a great player. Troy, there's a lot of great U.S. and Canada could both ice second Olympic teams. There's no doubt about it. Like, honestly.
Yeah, when you look at the omissions from Canada, it's like, how are these people like considered to not be the best of the best?
No Connor Bedard for Canada.
Connor Bedard. No Sam Bennett, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
No Seth Jarvis or Travis Konechny, who were both at Four Nations.
Yeah.
Zach Hyman, I think, a good hockey player. Like
Mark Scheifele was omitted.
Yeah.
Yep. See, I'm not as Brendan Montour. I'm going to give him a shout out just because he's a UMass guy. Matt Schaefer,
don't think he had much of a chance.
No, Matt Schaefer. I'd seen some people talking about.
Matt Schaefer was a big one. Yeah.
Did Bouchard make it? Evan Bouchard? No.
Nope. They brought back the exact same 8 defensemen they had at Four Nations. So yeah, I mean, I think Schaefer just on his play this year would have earned it for me. I just think he does everything. And I have seen some people who have like some concerns outside of Cale Makar about like who's really a puck moving, puck carrying defenseman on this team, on Canada's team. I mean, so it's still such a loaded roster that like it's hard to like. They're going to be the favorites going in, deservedly so. But yeah, I mean the U.S. does have a really balanced, well-rounded roster. On paper, better goaltending. Again, anything can happen in one game, and worth noting, like U.S. and Canada aren't in the same group, so they won't play until the knockout round, if they play at all. So, U.S. should have a cakewalk through the group stage because they have Latvia, Germany, and who else is in their group that I'm forgetting?
Finland, Slovaks,
no,
Czech.
Is either like Switzerland or Denmark? It wasn't one of the powers. Like there's no other power in their group because Russia would have been in their group had they gotten cleared. Right. So once Russia dropped out, like they didn't rearrange it; they just plugged in a different team.
Group C: U.S., Germany, Latvia, Denmark.
Yeah.
So Canada's with Switzerland, Czech Republic, and France. And then the Group B is Finland, Sweden, Slovakia, Italy. But yeah, I mean, Germany, Latvia, Denmark for their group stage stuff. It's those teams just aren't as deep. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so Canada's defense, you got Drew Doughty, Thomas Harley, Cale Makar, Josh Morrissey, Colton Parayko, Travis Sanheim, Shea Theodore, Devon Taves. I mean, I don't know, like Drew Doughty. Drew Doughty's a great player. He's a Hall of Famer. I think the fact that it's 2026 and he's still cracking the roster, maybe that's where you can kind of see, okay, Canada's, like the fact that Drew Doughty can't be, surpassed, similar to how Patrick Kane has been surpassed in the US's roster. Like, maybe that's where that's one guy that somebody else could have made the team over, but they like his experience and obviously still a great player. All right, well,
yeah, I also saw that.
I was gonna say, I wanted to mention Brad Marchand made the team. He was somebody who I think we still saw most projections putting him on the team, but obviously he's gotten older. But he had a great season last year. So did Sam Bennett. So like he was kind of one of the guys that was like, all right, probably should, but not 100% sure. Because if you remember, he's a fourth line guy during Four Nations at times. So like he was a bubble guy then, and he so good for him. He makes it for Canada too.
Celebrini, Horvat, Suzuki, Wilson. I think those are the 4 forwards that were not on their Four Nations roster that they rostered for the Olympics, I believe.
Yeah, and all pretty deserving, and like you can see kind of like a clear role for them, right? Like, I mean, Celebrini's been one of the 5 best players in the NHL this season. Horvat's had a really good season, does a little bit of everything. Suzuki's been really good for a few years now and is probably finally getting the recognition because the Canadians have been a better team. And Wilson, as we touched on earlier, like the physicality he'll bring. I remember like right after Four Nations when some people started to do like early Olympic projections, Marchand was kind of getting left off because people thought like, yeah, he was 4th line. Maybe he didn't have the speed to fully keep up in some of these games. But then obviously he has the playoff run that he had helping Florida win the cup, and then a great start to this season where, he's up among the league leaders in goals. So he certainly, if there was any doubt, he earned his way back on.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to say on Canada, I saw after the roster came out, Devin Taves said that his wife is due in February and he would not be leaving until after the baby comes. But it didn't say, like, is that early February or mid-February? So that is going to be a situation to keep an eye on. Like, they may end up needing a Taves replacement.
So, and this tournament for the men starts February 11th, just for context. The women start sooner, but the men start February 11th. So, I mean, that's still pretty early February, right? Like that's more than half the month. It's or I should say, like the time that it would have to be would be the first 10 days of February for him to not miss time. So anyhow, yeah, it's a good note to just put in people's mind.
So guys, let's just quickly, let's jump back to the Bruins because they do get the win over the Oilers. And last episode, we mentioned that we could see a situation where if you can find a way to get a win against Edmonton, maybe you start to feel good and you get some touches that go in. They had 11 players record a point in their win over Edmonton. So you have a bunch of guys that are feeling somewhat good about their game right now in a vacuum, probably heading into Vancouver. If you lose to Edmonton, I think you go on a big slide. But you beat Edmonton. Maybe now you can start to feel good about getting a win over Vancouver, getting a win over Seattle. And okay, there's that 3-1-1 record on the 5-game road trip that we kind of said was probably a bare minimum to keep their season alive. I've read off where they are in the standings at the beginning of the episode. That's following their win over Edmonton. So they still have a lot of work to do. Yeah, I think, we talked about it. The Bruins' top players for quite some time have not outplayed other teams' top players. Well, that wasn't the case in Edmonton. Their goaltending was strong. And yes, they get depth scoring, but all of the things that ailed the Bruins throughout their 6-game losing streak, and all the things that were lacking for one night against Edmonton came through. And surprise, surprise, you get the win.
Yeah, definitely a lot of positives. I mean, Pasternak 3 points while playing on that kid line with Minton and Husnudinov. The Middlestad Zaka Arvidsson line I mentioned going into the game, like Edmonton did switch away from that matchup a little bit, but like they still got some time against McDavid. And looking into the analytics of it, like Zaka was on the ice for 4 minutes of 5-on-5 action against McDavid's line. McDavid's line got 1 shot on goal in that time. Like, again, you don't hear Middlestad, Zaka, Arvidsson and think shutdown line, but they are pretty consistently doing the job. And like, just got to keep acknowledging it for as long as it lasts. So, the one negative from this losing streak that was still there, but they just happened to survive it was, once again, penalties. They gave the Oilers 5 power plays, and to their credit, killed all 5. Huge game for the PK. Swayman was great on the PK. But let me tell you, there are not going to be many teams this year that give the Oilers 5 power plays and live to tell the tale.
No, I mean, I think that's what we said at the end of last episode was if you're taking as many penalties as they have been, that power play destroys teams. Are they top 5 in the league? I believe. What was their numbers, Brian? You read it last episode. The Oilers power play numbers are great. And
it's number 1, like by a pretty comfortable margin.
Yeah, so it doesn't seem like taking 5 penalties. Normally you'd go 0 for 5 in that situation because of the personnel that they have and the track record they've had this season of scoring on the power play. But
they're 33.3%, Bridget. I'm sorry to interrupt you. They're 33.3% on the year. They're first. Pittsburgh is second, 30.2. But that's obviously after they're 0 for 5 against Boston. They're still 33.3%.
Yeah, 0 over 30% is just crazy. Those are crazy numbers. But yeah, they survived that. And Swayman is a big part of that. So, and you talked about, Scott, the Middlestat, Zaka, Arvidsson line as like a shutdown line. Well, Middlestat scored. Primary assist to Arvidsson. I think Arvidsson also assisted on the Hampus Lindholm goal. So yeah, it was the scoring to put up 6 goals and beat Edmonton 6-2. The scoring was spread out. Like, you get some defensemen scoring, you get Pasternak gets 2, like I said, Middlestat, Aspro, Elias Lindholm. So it was spread out, and I think during their losing streak, that kind of offense just wasn't there. So like this was a game where they were converting more than they had been throughout the losing streak and the homestand.
Victor Arvidsson, sorry, we may not have mentioned him as well, but I'm sure you guys did because you're paying more attention than I am. But he did not make Team Sweden either, right? Victor Arvidsson. Do we mention that part? I know we mentioned Elias Lindholm.
Yeah, we didn't. No, that's worth mentioning though.
Yeah, so no Victor Arvidsson for Team Sweden. But yeah, no, absolutely, Bridget. All good points. So we'll see what translates when they play Vancouver on Saturday night. I think this is going to be the final stretch of West Coast, Pacific time zone games, right, of the season. They've already been out to California. They've been to Vegas. They're doing the Pacific Northwest right now. So that'll be nice.
By the way, one real statistical anomaly to pull out of the advanced stats from this Edmonton game. So the Zadorov-McAvoy pairing. Now, again, they had to face McDavid and Draisaitl like almost every 5-on-5 shift. So not saying this was easy, but they got the Bruins with that pairing on the ice at 5-on-5. The Bruins got outshot 18-1, but goals were 1-1.
Wow.
So talk about just like, I don't know, bend but don't break, just kind of hang on for dear life and survive. Yeah, I'm sure they probably would have liked to have not spent that much time in their own zone, but Bruins survive.
All right. I have some initial results that flew in from the 7th player. Let's see. You guys want those numbers right now?
Sure.
All right. So we're over 100 votes just under 40 minutes ago that poll was posted. And Fraser Minton is in the lead at 40.3%. Alex Steves, 20.2%. Mark Kastelic, 29.8%. And 9.7% other. Where I've seen people commenting on Jonathan Aspro. Somebody did mention Morgan Geekie, although I did put out the parameter. It's even though it's a 50-goal pace is surprising. It's it's tough for a top line guy going into the year to be that award winner. But hey, knock your socks off. Vote whoever you want to vote for. So early votes, Fraser Minton in the lead, 7th player award. Yeah, which is surprising because Steve's on pace. If you really look at the numbers, Steve's on pace for the same amount of points in like 15 less games, 17 less games than Minton. But same time, even though Steve's is a career AHLer and that's a great story, he is 25 and Fraser Minton is a young kid. So at what is Minton 2021? So that kind of offsets the journeyman feel good story for Steve's case.
Yeah, I think Minton probably has like the storyline, the narrative working in his favor as, like you said, a young player, prospect who's come in and is like actually going to be part of the Bruins' future. A trade that I think Bruins fans now pretty unanimously feel like the Bruins won, and he was obviously, along with the first round pick, the centerpiece of that Carlo trade. The fact that you got him from Toronto, like all that works in his favor. Now you did get Steves from Toronto too. He was just buried in on their AHL roster.
Yep. All right. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we sign off here?
I don't think so.
No, we got World Junior
Oh yeah, 5:00
quarterfinals tonight.
Six Eastern, I think, right?
I think it's
Yeah,
5.
no, Bridget. Bridget, you may be right. I will just say there's been multiple times because US, most of the time, social media is calibrated to put it in Eastern Standard Time, but the USA Hockey Twitter account keeps putting it in Central. So I keep
Maybe, yeah.
seeing 5, thinking it's Eastern, but it ends up being
Yeah.
6.
Also, it's in military time, and I'm just like, can we just push? I don't know.
Yeah, it is. Just to confirm, it is 6 Eastern.
And they got the Czechs, right?
Finland. So the quarterfinals are starting at 2:00, Sweden versus Latvia, 4:30 Czech Republic versus Switzerland, USA Finland at 6, and then Canada Slovakia at 8:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Zellers is, he scored in every game so far. So, yeah.
Can we just start with him on Hagens' line? Just start the game.
I was going to say that, Scott.
Like the last 2 games, Bob Motzko in the second half of the game moves Zellers up to be on Hagens' line when the team needs offense, and they've scored in both of those games after being put together.
Yep.
Just start with them together. Like, what are we doing?
I was just going to say, I wonder if they're going to do that to start the game. You know who's in the doghouse, or should I say the terrier house, is Cole Iserman.
Yeah, it's kind of been a bit of a rough tournament for him.
Is Hudson supposed to be back?
He's practicing this morning.
Yeah. Sounds like he will be. Max Plant, not yet, but yeah, getting Hudson back would be huge, obviously.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this last podcast, but he was the leading scorer, point scorer in the tournament last year, and was a big part of the U.S. winning that medal. So yeah, I mean, I want to see Zellers Hagens from the jump too, and it's just fun to see. He scored even in that loss, but yeah, I'll be watching. I'll be tuning into that tonight, and yeah, that's more hockey. That's been fun.
Are you guys surprised that Hagens is not? Let me preface it with this. It really appears as though that Team USA is going with 2 evenly dispersed power play units, and they're both getting like a minute of ice time. But it's worth mentioning that Hagens is not on the unit that starts the power play. Zellers is. And I do think there's something to be said about who gets that initial, minute. And is it surprising to you guys that Hagens is not on that first, we'll call it first unit? And if you are surprised, like, do you think he should be there? Like, what? I'm surprised a little bit, but like Sega's on it. Hagens should be on it.
Yeah, I haven't read too much into it because, like you said, they are using them pretty evenly. Like that first unit's not extending to a minute 20 like you'll see a lot of first units do. A lot of times it's like they're getting off pretty much right at 50 seconds a minute in. So I guess I'm not too worried about it. I will be interested to see how that changes with Cole Hudson coming back, because really your top unit is whichever one he's on. So I'm interested to see which unit he goes in on.
And what was he on before he got hurt, Scott?
He was with Hagens on that unit.
Okay.
And then they moved Chase Reed there. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah, something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and my last thought about that has really very unimportant, but the broadcasters keep calling Bob Motzko Bob Moscow, and I cannot. Like, what do we do? No, it's not Bob Moscow. Like, it's very un-American.
Now that would be a hell of a name for Russia's head coach, but hey.
I was gonna say, this is like when people with the Boston accent, we take R's away when they're there and we add an R when it's not there. Like
the Canadian accent.
Because it's like the entire rest of the world says Moscow for the city in Russia, and Americans call it Moscow. But now that we have a Motzko, we're gonna call him Motzko.
Yeah, I don't get it. But somebody should have told. I'm not sure who the broadcaster is, but please someone tell him not to call him Bob Moscow anymore.
All right,
that's what he's gonna be if the U.S. gets upset in the quarterfinals. We're gonna ship him off to Moscow.
Jesus, Scott. All right.
Alrighty. With that,
I don't. By the way, I don't think he's had a very good tournament coaching. I think there's been a lot of deserved criticism. But
Yeah.
we'll see how they pull it together for the knockout round.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were kind of hitting on it, right? Like, Zellers and Higgins. Clearly, I mean, Zellers has been arguably USA's most impactful forward, right? And for much of the tournament, he's been kind of in a power play and then like a limited 5-on-5 role. It's like, dude, the kid's making things happen. And so I just think put him with Higgins, because Higgins line 5-on-5, really outside of a few minutes here and there, like hasn't really done a ton either. But when Zellers is there, they kind of do. I just kind of touched on some of the power play usage. I don't know. I mean, whatever. We'll see what happens. But and the goaltending, regardless of the coaching, the goaltending has to sharpen up for USA if they want any chance.
Yeah, I think it's you got to ride Nick Kempf at this point for the knockout rounds. He's been the only US goalie who's done anything positive. Caleb Heil has struggled. They started Brady Noling the final game of the group stage. That was his first action. It's like, here you go, kid. We're going to throw you right in against Sweden. He didn't have a good game. So then they bring in Kempf, who I thought was pretty good in the third period. And, he was good in whichever group stage game that was that he played. So kind of by default, like, I think he has to be their guy now.
All right.
Goalie at Notre Dame, Nick Kempf.
Well, thank you all very much for listening. Enjoy watching World Juniors. Enjoy watching the Bruins over the weekend. And we'll be back on Monday to talk to you then. Hey, guys. Thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.